If China is compared with the whole of Europe, many people would assume that a single country could hardly match an entire continent. However, when each specific factor is analyzed, China's scale becomes surprising. The country possesses such vast territory, population, and global influence that it is comparable to and even surpasses Europe in some aspects. First is the size of territory. China covers approximately 9.6 million square kilometers, while Europe has an area of around 10.5 million square kilometers. The difference between the two is not very large, showing that in terms of geographical scale alone, China is already close to the size of a continent. What makes China particularly unique is its extremely diverse landscape. It contains vast deserts, enormous plateaus such as the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau, rugged mountainous regions, as well as highly developed coastal areas with strong economic activity. This diversity makes China resemble a miniature continent. However, the biggest difference lies in their political structures. Europe consists of more than 40 separate countries with different cultures, governments, and management systems, while China is a unified nation made up of dozens of administrative divisions. This centralized structure creates a distinctive scale when comparing the two sides. One area where China has less advantage compared with Europe is its coastline system. Europe has a naturally fragmented coastline with many major seas, including the Baltic Sea, Black Sea, Adriatic Sea, and Mediterranean Sea, creating favorable conditions for a dense network of ports. Meanwhile, China has around 14,500 kilometers of coastline, which is a very large figure, but still difficult to compete with Europe's unique geographical advantages. This factor contributed to the rise of maritime powers such as Britain, Spain, Portugal, and the Netherlands. While China historically became more recognized for its strength on land, however, when it comes to the ability to concentrate power and make decisions quickly, China has an advantage over Europe. Europe is a collection of many independent nations, each with different interests and policies, making unified decisions often slow and complicated. In contrast, China operates under a centralized management system, allowing policies to be implemented across the entire country once decisions are made. In terms of population, China also has a significant advantage, with around 1.41 billion people, while the whole of Europe, including Russia, has a population of only about 740 million. This demographic advantage provides China with an enormous workforce. Every year, China produces around 10 to 11 million university graduates, while the total number of students enrolled in universities and colleges reaches approximately 45 million. This figure is comparable to the populations of many European countries, nearly equal to Spain's population and larger than that of countries such as Poland. This demonstrates that China's massive pool of young and educated human resources is already a major strength in global competition. The number of university students in China is even larger than the combined populations of many European countries. For example, Ukraine has a population of only around 40 million people, while Norway, Denmark, Finland, and Sweden combined still have fewer than 30 million people. This shows that China alone produces a huge young workforce every year, giant in scale. China has created intense competition in the labor market and forced the government to continuously expand employment opportunities. However, both China and Europe are facing the challenge of population aging. The difference is that China is aging faster due to the impact of its former one-child policy. The current birth rate is only around 1 to 1.1 children per woman, lower than that of many European countries. While Europe is aging gradually, China is entering a period of rapid demographic aging. Europe has a smaller population but possesses a large number of elderly people with strong economic foundations, whereas China must deal with an increasingly large elderly population. Nevertheless, its huge population still provides China with a major advantage through its enormous domestic market, something that many smaller European countries cannot achieve. China has a unique advantage because simply serving its massive domestic market is already enough to create an economic scale. comparable to that of many European countries. Combined. From an economic perspective, in early 2025, China's GDP reached approximately 18 trillion USD, nearly approaching the combined economic size of the entire Europe if Russia, the United Kingdom, and Turkey are included, which is estimated at around 20 to 22 trillion USD. Compared with the European Union alone, China has already surpassed it and become the world's second largest economy, behind only the United States. What is remarkable is the speed of China's development, which has taken place within a relatively short period. While Europe needed several centuries after the Industrial Revolution to build a modern industrial economy, China required only about 4 decades after launching its reform in opening up policy in the late 1970s to transform itself from a poor agricultural economy into a global manufacturing powerhouse. Starting from coastal regions such as Guangdong, Shanghai, and Tianjin, China developed a massive industrial network and an almost complete supply chain, covering component production, assembly, logistics, and exports. This allowed the country to maintain high economic growth for decades and become one of the world's most powerful economic engines. However, when this enormous economic output is divided among more than 1.4 billion people, the picture changes significantly. China's GDP per capita is only around 13,000 USD per year, much lower than that of many developed European economies. Meanwhile, average income levels in Europe are generally much higher, commonly ranging from 30,000 to 45,000 USD, with some advanced countries exceeding 80,000 USD. This shows that although China has achieved an enormous economic scale, the average living standards of its people still remain far behind those in Europe. Economically, China is the world's largest manufacturing hub, leading in many industries such as steel, electronics, solar energy equipment, industrial machinery, and consumer goods. The country possesses a production capacity on a scale that very few places can compete with. In contrast, Europe does not focus on mass production, but stands out in high-value industries such as German automobiles, Swiss precision machinery, French aerospace, technology, pharmaceuticals, and advanced engineering. China can be imagined as a giant manufacturing hub capable of producing massive quantities of goods, while Europe is more like a premium brand that focuses on sophistication, quality, and advanced technology. Both sides possess their own distinct advantages, making it difficult for one to completely replace the other. In terms of infrastructure, China has developed at an extraordinary pace. Its tens of thousands of kilometers of high-speed railways, along with an extensive network of highways, large-scale seaports, and airports, have transformed the country's landscape. Meanwhile, many European nations prioritize upgrading infrastructure in a more sustainable way, aiming to reduce environmental impacts. However, rapid growth has also created numerous challenges for China, including debt pressure, problems in the real estate sector, an aging population, and income disparities between different regions. Regarding global influence, Europe played a significant role for many centuries thanks to its civilization, scientific achievements, and economic strength. However, today the region faces difficulties due to differences in interests among member countries, especially after Brexit, the energy crisis, and rising geopolitical tensions. China, on the other hand, benefits from a centralized management model that allows it to implement long-term strategies quickly and effectively. For example, in the electric vehicle sector, strong government support policies have helped the industry grow rapidly within just a few years. Ultimately, it is impossible to simply conclude that China or Europe is absolutely stronger than the other. China has clear advantages in population size, industrial production, development speed, and the ability to mobilize vast resources. Meanwhile, Europe continues to lead in quality of life, scientific foundations, advanced technology, and cultural influence. From a broader perspective, China has now become a competitor on an equal level with Europe and has even surpassed it in certain fields. Nevertheless, both sides continue to maintain their own unique strengths, which contribute to their special positions in the world. Thank you for following and supporting this story. If you find it interesting, you can subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share it with others. For now, I would like to say goodbye. Thank you for accompanying New Yunmin throughout this journey. Let's continue traveling to new lands and discovering new things. Don't hesitate to leave your comments and suggestions. See you again in the next story.